The site is open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 6:15 p.m. You do need an appointment, and appointments are booked now for several weeks. You can visit the State Health Department's website for more information and to find out if you're eligible. The state says that site at the airport in Plattsburgh will stay open until it's no longer needed. Governor Andrew Cuomo focused a lot on the war against COVID in his budget address to lawmakers this week.
The budget is about reconciling the actions and the costs for the COVID battle thus far and determining now fiscal liability and responsibility. Now, the bill for the battle has come due. And the question is, who is responsible for the fiscal liability and responsibility? New York's economy is suffering from two causes. First, the actual cost of COVID. Businesses were closed, we lost revenue, the expense of actually conducting the war, the disruption of last spring when we were assaulted by COVID, the lives that were lost. That's the actual cost of COVID. That's one element. The second is, over the past 4 years, New York has been assaulted by the federal government in multiple ways. And there's a cost to that also that has come due.
The governor said COVID has created a $15 billion deficit and that the state is going to need assistance from the federal government. President Biden wants to help states with $350 billion in COVID relief, something Cuomo is heavily relying on. The governor has come up with two budgets, depending on how much federal aid the state receives. If New York gets the full $15 billion, then that money will not only fill the budget gap, but increase funding for schools and subsidize the cost of basic internet service for low-income families.
It would fund education at the increases that we had proposed initially, so it would restore all funding and fund the increases. It would enable our universal broadband program, which is going to be the first in the country, but it gets broadband to low-income families. Many children during this remote learning of COVID were left behind because their families couldn't support, couldn't pay the money for broadband access.
It would also fund the governor's call for green energy projects and spend another $92 million on upgrading the Olympic venues in Lake Placid. But Cuomo says a worst-case scenario of only $6 billion in federal bailout money will lead to painful budget and spending cuts and force him to consider a tax increase on the richest New Yorkers.
If the federal government doesn't fund state and local governments, it's going to hurt all New Yorkers.